All righty. Hello, everybody. Jason Reynolds here with the Real Estate Now podcast. So excited to have you guys here with us today. And today we are going to talk about renovations. I don't know about you guys, but I've been in a situation before where having a great contractor is so important, whether it's getting new flooring put in, granite, or a full make ready. You can have a nightmare experience where you're chasing down a contractor, always trying to make sure things are being done on time, that they're being done correctly. Or you can also find those contractors that maybe own their own business and have pride in their work and actually take care of items. And one of those contractors that I know is James Alexander with Sterling Property Maintenance and Construction. He's done many make-readies for us in the past for our clients. Done a great job, covers a whole variety of items that we'll talk about in this short episode. But first, we'd like to welcome James to the podcast. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Well, let's, just share with the audience, how long have you been in the business in terms of owning your own company to do make-readies?
This part of the business, I've been about 6 years now, full-blown owner. A while back, my father owned a company, which I was the supervisor of all the crews. And I did that for about 7 to 8 years. And he did everything. And then I took a break and I was a store manager for Home Depot for about 15 years.
Okay.
And then I jumped back into
a couple
this.
Years.
Yeah, just a little bit.
So a pretty extensive knowledge of home improvement or repairs, I would say.
Yes.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've done it all.
So in terms of just sharing with the audience, I have a few questions, that I sent you, but so those that are listening understand, from what I know, you pretty much cover everything. Is that correct? I mean, or are there certain items you don't cover when you do make-readies?
I pretty much cover everything. I try to be a one-stop shop. There'll be some things that, like foundation. I do have a foundation company. I don't handle that myself, but I can recommend a good company, but there's a lot of good companies out there. So some heavy lift and stuff like that requires a little bit different knowledge. I do know about it, but that's one area that I kind of look out for other experts to help me with. That and roofing. I do have a roofing company that I work alongside that works me really good deals for a lot of property management companies, so I can pass that savings on to our owners.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's jump into some of these questions so we can keep it short and sweet for those that are listening. I know as we've worked together, I know what kind of upgrades I like to see in properties when I'm selling them. But as you're working with a lot of clients or property owners, what would you say are a few of the top upgrades that people are making nowadays?
I would say, Jason, right now, everybody is really into the quickest and the fastest and the bang for your buck is paint. Painting cabinets, walls, trim, two-tone is the fastest bang for your buck right now that everybody's looking to do.
Perfect.
Then moves on to like your finishes, your appliances, your doorknobs, light fixtures, stuff like that. But the first one is usually paint. First thing they call me on is paint.
Gotcha. Well, that definitely makes sense. This kind of slides into the next question. I know you and I in the past, I would try to save money by sometimes going with Formica countertops compared to granite. But then as we've started working, the cost really wasn't that different. So is that true in a sense of usually it's not a huge jump to go from Formica to granite?
No, it's not. That's the common question I always get. Well, what about Formica? Well, the cost difference is in the labor. There's a lot less man hours, believe it or not, in granite than there is Formica. Formica is on the job labor. Granite is done by a CNC machine in a shop. We template it, the machine cuts it out, we just bring it out, install it. So the hours wise for labor on granite is so much less than it is Formica. Formica is cutting the holes, putting on the laminate on the sides, gluing everything down, butting them together. There's a lot more labor cost in doing Formica. So they kind of come out in the wash about the same, just because of the labor intensity.
Okay, because Formica, you're essentially going to Home Depot or Lowe's and buying a piece of this Formica, bringing it to the property, custom
Correct.
cutting it, custom fitting it, making sure
Correct.
everything fits. And then
Right.
even though the granite is more expensive, you're saying you're saving on that money because they just literally pick it up, take it to the property and drop it.
Yeah. And you're buying prefab Formica top. So with granite, when we template it to the wall. So the machine, when it CNC cuts it, it's cutting it to the wall. So if you've got a wall that's a little out, it's going to cut the granite to fit a little better. Formica's not. It's going to be square. It's going to straight. We're going to have to, do some sheetrock repairs sometimes or caulk in some big lines, stuff like that. It's just a lot more labor intensive to put in
Mm.
Formica than it is granite. People
I've
wouldn't
just
think so, but it is.
No, that makes sense because there was actually a property. It's not one that you did lately, but where we had to move cabinets out to match the depth of the Formica countertop. So that
Cabinets
was
are never,
added hours.
yeah, they're never your cabinets are never level. They're never straight. And when we do granite, we just set it down and we shimmy it and make sure it's level. But the CNC machines, once we template it, it cuts it right out perfectly.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So moving from that, you mentioned, one of the best upgrades, bang for your buck, is paint, two-tone cabinets, etc. What are the paint schemes that you're seeing as being most popular recently?
Right now, it's really the neutral colors. A lot of the neutral colors, brighter is better. Everybody likes the bright look. It looks cleaner, and that's where everybody's been kind of going to these past couple of years. Loving the light trim, the light walls, the light floors, bright fixtures. Just makes it look brighter in a home. Now the trims change. We used to do, gray floors with gray walls and stuff like that, but people are really starting to like the more brown tones in the floors versus the gray and matching everything. So you can see the change in the flooring.
Hmm.
Eventually, I think we'll see the change in the paint, but right now everybody's still loving the neutral colors in the paint.
So let's dive into that just a little bit. You said you can see the change in the flooring. What are
Right.
you seeing the trend change, from what to what now?
It used to be a really dark hickory flooring. Everybody loved the dark wood look. Then we started bringing in some grays and some beiges, and everybody started liking the lighting of the floor. And it was getting light. Now everybody is starting to like the yellow kind of walnut kind of look. Still not as dark as the hickory, but a little lighter. Love the wood grain look. And it kind of flows with almost every color you put in there. So it all depends. A lot of people have their own opinion, but a lot of people, they all kind of follow the same trend, believe it or not, throughout the way we do the flooring colors. So I will tell you, there's a lot of opinions, but when it's all said and done, they all pick the same.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, to give folks kind of an interesting, I guess, tidbit of knowledge, you recently did a condo for us that had a smoker present in the property
Yes.
prior to the make ready. For those that are maybe people looking at buying a house, uh, and maybe there's that issue at a property they're looking at, can you explain, because you had a protocol you followed pre-painting the property, but then also when you painted it, things that you did to ensure that we were trying to cut that future smell out.
Correct.
Can you walk through, somebody who's maybe looking at a house and maybe even it's not a smoke smell, but just a dog smell or something that maybe is, gotten into the walls. What do you do when you're prepping a property to help mitigate
Usually,
that?
when I do that, anytime there's a heavy smoke or any dog smell or anything like that, it gets everywhere. You run your AC, it's going to get into the systems, it's going to get into the air filters, and it's going to blow in every room. So what we usually do is we go in and do a pre-clean. Then if it's real bad, we primer everything, to lock the smell out of the walls and stuff like that. Then after that, I go through and I do what we use is an air scrubber, and I put an air scrubber in the house for about 2 to 3 days. Just depends on how long or how bad it is. And what that does is it completely goes through the whole system and cleans out any smell you've got. And then after that, I usually run some guys to go through and clean out all the air ducts and all the return vents and everything like that. So we're just cleaning everything out that has a smell or could have a smell, and then locking it out of the walls. And when we do the flooring, we're tearing everything out. We're putting a deionizer down and spraying the concrete to lock that smell out as well before we lay down a new floor.
Gotcha. So there are ways to mitigate that or to help
Yes.
solve it,
Mhm.
essentially.
Yeah, the flooring carpet holds the smell. If people are like, just change the carpet, no, the pad is what holds the smell the most. And believe it or not, that smell will stay in the concrete too. So we usually will spray the concrete down, make sure we get rid of that smell as well. Because after you don't want to get a whole new house and then it still smell after you've done all of this work.
Right, right. And so that's another thing for people to remember too, is if you maybe walk a property that has had animals that have gone to the bathroom, like you said, it's important to, some people may think just tear out the carpet and we're good, but in
Yeah, it's not.
reality, you need to treat the concrete as well underneath
Yeah,
it.
because they believe it or not, it like crystallizes into the pad, and then when it lays on the concrete, it does the same thing. It etches itself in there, and that's why when we pull it out, we spray the whole concrete down before we lay any new pad down.
Gotcha, gotcha. Awesome. Well, as always, tons of great information. James, if people say want to explore, seeing if there's any jobs you can help them with, I'm assuming you service you almost the whole DFW Metroplex,
I do,
correct?
I do. That was part of my game plan of starting my business. I would run into a lot of guys that just they would want to stay in one little area, and I'm like, no, we're going to go big. So we do all of DFW. We go from Weatherford to Mesquite. Even recently, I just had a make ready out in Denton. So we went all the way out
All
there and
right.
took care of them to do it out there.
So for those of you listening that aren't too familiar with the Metroplex, Denton is maybe 45 minutes north of Fort Worth. Is that about right? Or is it
Yeah,
longer than
yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, it's about an hour. I think it's probably
Okay.
55 minutes. But if you get on there at a certain time on
Yeah.
35, you're 2 or 3
You never
hours.
know.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, good. Well, if people want to get in contact with you, how do they reach you by phone or email? What are those?
You can definitely reach me by phone. My phone number is 817-201-3387. Text, you can call either way. If I don't answer, please leave me a message. I'll call you back. Sometimes I'm in an area where it's real loud and I can't hear my phone. But my email is sterlingmaintenance1122@gmail.com. I'm always
Okay.
checking that. I'm always making sure because that's where most of my owners will usually email me, or people like yourself or a property manager will get a hold of me on.
Perfect. And for those of you that are listening, if you didn't catch that, we're going to post it in the show notes so you can give James a call or shoot him an email if you'd like. And again, I cannot stress the importance of having a contractor that you can trust,
Yes.
that isn't always, that you're not having to chase all the time. And so James has definitely been that contact for our team many, many times. So would definitely recommend you reach out to him. And just thank you,
Yeah.
James, for taking the time to visit with us.